There's an old Chinese saying, or curse, may you live in interesting times. And if one takes a look at the headlines that are coming out of Ukraine today, out of Russia, indeed out of the world, we've been indeed cursed. Let's start off with something that maybe the people of Russia don't view as a curse, and that is, of course, the successful completion of the referenda in Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Lugansk, where the citizens of these four former Ukrainian territories came out in overwhelming numbers and voted in favor of rejoining Russia. Now, there's a political process that's related to this. You have to go through the bureaucracy. So the Russian Duma, or parliament, will meet, will discuss this. It'll be pushed up to the Russian Federal Assembly, then turned over to the president. But I think everybody can agree that the outcome is a guaranteed, that Russia is going to grow bigger in the next couple of days, and Ukraine is going to become smaller. This is critical because of a number of things. It's not just about the will of the people. It's about radically transforming the nature of the conflict that's ongoing between Russia and Ukraine, or as Russian President Vladimir Putin has stated, between Russia and the collective West, because that's what's happening here. We've discussed what I call the game-changing nature of NATO intervention into the Ukrainian conflict. Well, yes, it was a game changer, but by holding these referenda and expanding Russia, transforming these territories into Mother Russia, Russia has changed the game. It's no longer going to be a struggle between Ukrainian/NATO forces and Russia and its allies on Ukrainian soil. Any future combat, once these territories are absorbed, will be a struggle between foreign powers against Mother Russia. And this is a transformative moment. How Russia will respond is yet to be seen, but it's clear that Russia has indicated that any attack on Russia proper will be treated much differently than the special military operation and the constraints that have been placed on Russian military forces to date. Now, in parallel to the referenda, we had the Russian president order up what's called a partial mobilization. That is, 300,000 reservists, people with prior military service, are being in the process of being mobilized, organized into combat units that will then be sent to the region of conflict to reinforce the Russian forces and their allies that are currently engaged in combat against Ukraine and whatever NATO mercenaries have been assembled. This is a big deal. The Russian government has said that these 300,000 troops are not going to be frontline combatants. They're going to be used to secure the Russian border and to provide strategic depth in the areas that are in conflict: Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Lugansk. And in doing so, free up the 200 or so thousand regular combat forces that Russia currently has deployed to the region, and whose numbers were, frankly speaking, insufficient to the task of completing the special military operation, especially given the reality that NATO had poured in tens of billions of dollars worth of weaponry and provided training and other assistance to a Ukrainian military that has become little more than a proxy army of NATO. But here's the question: is this going to be enough? So far, the Russian military has not performed what I would say in a manner reflective of its doctrine. They have operated, in fact, in a manner which deviates significantly from its doctrine. Will the provision of these 300,000 troops enable Russia to reorganize itself, to bring the combat formations that are committed to their full status and prepared to engage this NATO Ukrainian force the way the Russian army has always been trained and equipped to do so? Will a combined arms army or a First Guards tank army be allowed to fight the way they've trained to fight against a NATO-style enemy, or will they continue to operate in a way that deviates from doctrine and so far has failed to produce the kind of dramatic victories that one would normally have associated with the employment of Russian troops in these numbers? It's a fair question. Beyond the battlefield, however, we have other things happening. Just this week, we've seen the sabotage of the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines, strategic energy assets of Russia and European conglomerates that had been, in the case of Nord Stream 1, providing a significant quantity of gas, Russian gas from Russia through the Baltic Ocean into Germany, and Nord Stream 2, which had been completed last year and was prepared to ship gas, but had been prevented from doing so by the intervention of the United States into European affairs, pressuring Germany to prevent the opening of that. There were demonstrations in the streets in Germany earlier this week where the German citizens were starting to tell their government, we don't want to freeze this winter. We would like it if our factories stayed open. We would like it if we had jobs, if we could have food, if energy wasn't priced through the roof. Maybe it's time for the German government to turn on Nord Stream 2. That's a discussion the United States did not want to have between the German people and their government. So the United States took Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1 off the table. Why do I say the United States? On February 8th of this year, American President Joe Biden said straight up that if Russian tanks went into Ukraine, then the United States would shut down Nord Stream 2. And by shut down, he said it will not operate. I think we need to take the president at his word. This is an act of terrorism. It's a casus belli, and it dangerously escalates the tension between Russia, United States, Russia, and Europe. And what the fallout will be, we don't know. But one of the things we do know is that because of the Russian referendum, or the referendum in the four former Ukrainian oblasts, because of Russia's mobilization, and because of this terrorist attack against the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, there's been an awful lot of talk of nuclear war. Most of the talk comes from the West, who's accusing Russia of being prepared to launch a preemptive nuclear strike against Ukraine and what the consequences of that would be. There's a lot of nuclear saber rattling, which has rightfully so made a lot of people very concerned, even afraid. Is this just rhetoric, or is this something more than that? Who better to talk to, though, than somebody who is capable of addressing all of these issues?